from Texas, Mr. Gill, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for putting together this hearing today. I want to set the stage for this bill as we get started. Imagine a Trinidad gang member arrives at the southwest border illegally near the height of the Democrat Biden-Harris border crisis in 2023. He's traveled a long way, but of course he's got taxpayer-funded NGOs who have provided him assistance throughout his entire journey. He's one of hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens encountered at the U.S. southwest border that month and more than 2 million that year alone. Because Border Patrol is overwhelmed, he's released into the interior of the country with a notice to appear in immigration court. To remain in the country and get a work permit, he'll file a bare-bones application for asylum that everybody knows is frivolous and stands no chance of success. Another taxpayer-funded NGO in the U.S. told him to do that, and he files his asylum application anyways. Because the immigration court backlog is nearly 4 million cases, it'll be years before his flimsy case is heard by an immigration judge. In the meantime, he'll move to New York or Chicago or San Francisco, be given taxpayer-funded benefits, be arrested for one crime or another, be coddled by sanctuary city leaders, and defended by Democrats who say America's long-standing immigration laws are simply too mean. Yet he'll remain in the immigration court backlog for years, filing continuance after continuance and motion after motion to delay his eventual removal from the United States. Years later, an immigration judge inevitably denies his frivolous asylum claim. The illegal alien gang member will appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals, which will then take months, if not years, to reach a decision on his case. Once the Board of Immigration Appeals affirms the immigration judge's obvious decision, the illegal alien gang member will again appeal, this time to a federal court of appeals, which will take even more months, if not years, to deny his appeal. That's the process for one hypothetical illegal alien gang member allowed into the United States. It's not abnormal by any means, due to the open borders Democrat administration years ago. Thousands of federal man-hours at the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and in the federal courts have been expended on this case alone, including countless taxpayer dollars. All of this to deny a frivolous claim by an illegal alien gang member to ensure he's deported from the United States. Today, we'll consider a bill to help end this insane nonsense. The Expedited Removal of Criminal Aliens Act is straightforward. It says if you're a criminal alien in the United States, you cannot game our asylum system and you cannot take advantage of the American people's generosity and remain in the country for years waiting for an immigration court hearing. If you're a foreign national who is convicted of certain crimes, you're ineligible for immigration benefits and relief. You must be detained and you must be deported quickly. For decades, current immigration law has authorized a more efficient process to quickly remove certain dangerous criminal aliens from the country. Under existing law, aggravated felon aliens can be removed from the United States without going through traditional immigration court removal proceedings. Current law also makes aliens convicted of aggravated felonies ineligible for immigration relief, such as asylum, and presumes they are deportable from the United States. This process is known as administrative removal or expedited removal. Every federal court of appeals to consider the constitutionality of these expedited procedures have held that the current statute comports with due process. This bill expands the categories of criminal aliens that may be placed in removal proceedings when they are in criminal custody and authorizes DHS to place additional criminal aliens in expedited removal proceedings. The bill allows DHS to fast-track the deportation of aliens who are not lawful permanent residents and one, are members of a criminal gang, transnational criminal organization, or foreign terrorist organization, or two, have been convicted of dangerous crimes. Democrats, I'm sure, are going to hyperventilate about this bill, but before they do, let's listen to the categories of criminal convictions to which this bill applies. Any felony, any misdemeanor against a member of a vulnerable group, any assault of a law enforcement officer, any sexual offense, any crime of domestic violence, any stalking offense, any crime against children, including sex trafficking of a minor or sexual abuse of a minor, any activity relating to material involving the sexual exploitation of minors, or any violation of a protective order. A vulnerable group in this context includes a child younger than 16, a pregnant woman, an individual with a severe physical or mental disability, and senior citizens over the age of 65. I think, Mr. Chairman, this is a bill that the American people agree with. In fact, a poll from just a few weeks ago showed that 78% of Americans support deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes. That includes nearly 70% of Democrats. And those numbers are after a breathless 11-month full court press by Democrats and their far-left media allies to demonize the men and women carrying out federal immigration enforcement every single day. It isn't working. In fact, a clear majority, 56% of Americans, agree with deporting all immigrants who are in the country illegally. Even 36% of Democrats believe that all illegal aliens should be deported. It's no surprise. Let's consider what Democrats did to this country for 4 years. Historic highs of border encounters, with Border Patrol overrun and the southwest border completely abandoned. At least 8 million illegal aliens allowed to enter the United States, including 2 million gotaways who evaded apprehension entirely. Hundreds of aliens on the terrorist watch list encountered at the southwest border, with at least 99 potential terrorists released into the country, and we believe that number is probably significantly higher. That also led to an immigration court backlog that exploded to its highest ever. And the Democrat Party sat by and enabled the border crisis every single step of the way, doing nothing to stop it, in fact, doing everything they could to encourage it. When Democrats controlled and enjoyed unified control of the government with the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, they went out of their way to leave our border open. They did nothing to secure the border, nothing to keep Americans safer, and nothing to enact what they constantly drone about, which is comprehensive immigration reform. So what have they done? Last Congress, the House passed a bill to secure the border and protect Americans. Every House Democrat voted against it. Last Congress, the House passed a bill to kick out foreign nationals who steal Americans' identities and commit Social Security fraud. 155 Democrats voted against it. Just this Congress, the House passed a bill to kick drunk driving illegal aliens out of the country. 160 House Democrats voted against it. Just 2 months ago, we passed a bill to increase prison sentences for illegal aliens convicted of felonies. 197 House Democrats voted against it. In January, we passed the Lake and Riley Act, named in honor of the Georgia nursing student brutally murdered by an illegal alien. 156 House Democrats voted against it. In this committee, in September, we voted out a bill named after Kayla Hamilton, who was killed by an illegal alien. Every committee Democrat voted against it. At that committee markup, Representative Crockett, our friend, referred to Kayla Hamilton as, quote, a random dead person, end quote. Democrats even shut down the federal government just recently to restore taxpayer-funded health care benefits to illegal aliens. This is the Democrats' legacy on immigration, voting against common sense, rejecting reforms, demonizing the victims of their policies. And that's exactly what the American people resoundingly rejected last November. Foreign terrorists released into American communities, gang members unleashed onto American streets, illegal aliens crowded into American schools and hospitals, foreign nationals signed up for voter rolls, illegal alien benefits bankrolled by hardworking American taxpayers. That is their legacy. And at the end of it all, American communities are abandoned, American people victimized, mothers raped, daughters assaulted, sisters murdered, American cities overwhelmed, public services overrun, American generosity overburdened, and taxpayer budgets overstretched. And the American people said simply, we're over it. They gave Congress and the president a mandate to secure the border and fix a flawed immigration system that all too often benefits illegal aliens at the literal expense of American citizens. This bill is a step forward in fulfilling that mandate. Let's chart a new path forward. The Expedited Removal of Criminal Aliens Act moves us closer to that goal, and I urge my colleagues to support it. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The ranking member is now recognized for an opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. You know, the two most beautiful words in the Constitution, maybe in the English language, are due process. It's due process that protects our rights and our freedoms from the arbitrary power of government officers who might be completely convinced of the righteousness of what they're doing, but they might not care about your rights, and they might not care about your freedoms, and they might be wrong about the facts. One of my colleagues said when we got into this debate last time to me, well, wait, you're not saying you support due process for guilty people, are you? And that's the whole point. We don't know if they're guilty until there's been due process. So yes, we've got to have due process for everyone. That's what the Constitution talks about. In our first colloquy about the first bill this morning, Mr. Chairman, we heard members saying that due process was just too excruciatingly prolonged and protracted when we were talking about a case where a guy kicked a dog, spent 3 days in jail, and then was deported from the country. And yet again, we hear from the distinguished gentleman from Texas that due process just takes too long. It just goes on for too long. Look, this bill is a frontal strike on due process. When you think of the government officials who are going to be wielding this lawless power, don't think of the leaders that you love and know the most, the ones who are inviting you to dinner. Think of the ones you loathe and fear the most, because those are the ones you will be empowering also to designate people at whim as terrorists and as drug traffickers. This bill is extraordinary. It would allow the Secretary of Homeland Security to unilaterally declare any of the following people a terrorist or a gang member, even if they've never been convicted of anything, even if they're not being prosecuted for anything right now, and then deport them. Anybody traveling on a tourist visa, anyone working here legally on an H-1B work visa, or an agricultural visa, or a summer work visa, anyone studying at an American university at the undergraduate level or the graduate level can just be designated a terrorist or a drug trafficker without any legal or administrative process at all. The summary designation of people lawfully present here as terrorists or gang members and their removal from the country would take place without any necessary evidentiary proof or any standard at all. This bill destroys due process. It's in plain violation of even the Roberts Court's holding that under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, persons in America are guaranteed some form of due process before being removed. Yet time and again, we've seen this administration want to designate hundreds of people, thousands of people, en masse, as gang members and terrorists without any concrete, individualized, or relevant evidence to back it up. And these wild accusations have led to devastating consequences. Take the case of Jose Reyes Barrios, a 36-year-old professional soccer player and coach who was an asylum seeker from Venezuela, awaiting his asylum hearing. Unbeknownst to his family, he was swept up and flown out of the country to that famous torture prison in El Salvador as part of the government's dragnet campaign against Tren de Aragua. He had no criminal record. He had no criminal charges, but he was sent to the mercy of a brutal dictator in El Salvador simply because he's got a tattoo on his right arm, which was mistakenly associated with Tren de Aragua. In fact, the tattoo is of a soccer ball topped with a crown, which signifies the soccer club Real Madrid. He had no legal process. He had no judge. He had no jury. He had no right to counsel. He had no opportunity to present evidence or to hear the charges against him. He had no opportunity to cross-examine. He had no due process. Look at one other case, Andre Hernandez Romero, a gay makeup artist and barber who fled Venezuela's brutal Maduro regime, which was persecuting him for being anti-gay and for speaking up for free speech in Venezuela. He'd passed his credible fear interview in our asylum process. His asylum claim was pending when he was swept up in the government's campaign because of his benign tattoos of two crowns, one symbolizing his beloved father, one symbolizing his beloved mother. And that became the basis for his removal with a unilateral administrative power to declare somebody somehow at odds with the government. Romero missed his asylum hearing because he was at the torture prison in Salvador. 60 Minutes reviewed his media posts going back for more than a decade and could not find a shred of evidence linking him to a gang activity, and yet he was described as a gang member. To this day, the government has never brought forward any evidence. He's had no constitutional due process whatsoever. And our friend from Texas wants to make this the law. He wants to make this official that the government can declare anybody a gangbanger or a terrorist without any legal process at all and kick him out of the country. Come on. This is the Judiciary Committee of the United States House of Representatives. How can we be pushing this? And by the way, if you don't care about soccer players and gay barbers from Venezuela, how about this? Are you okay with the Secretary of Homeland Security having a unilateral right to deem far-right white South Afrikaner groups like the Boer Mag, whose leader tried to assassinate Nelson Mandela, designated as terrorists and gangsters, and then simply removed from the country? Is that a power you want to vest unilaterally in a government official? Do you want future administrations to have the right to describe visitors from right-wing groups and parties in Europe, like Alternative for Deutschland in Germany, or Rassemblement National Français, as terrorists and gangsters? This bill is an extremely blunt instrument. It could be used to conduct mass deportations and to strip people here of their rights to due process under the Constitution, as even this Supreme Court has found they have. I hope everybody will join me in my opposition and yield back to this bill, and yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.